Welcome into another edition of Mavs Latest. I am Josyah Howard, and the NBA draft is almost upon us, and the Mavericks edition of Cooper Flagg is almost official. And again, I've said it over and over again. I'm super excited for what Cooper Flagg can be for the Dallas Mavericks, and it seems like head coach Jason Kidd actually has some bigger plans for him than I even expected for him to be for this team in year one. It seems like already Jason Kidd has focused his tools, his skill set, and his tools. He's considered Cooper to be kind of all over the map, the Swiss Army knife that I've continued to echo on this show. He's already eyeing the fact that Cooper Flagg, even early on in his career, can play some point forward and be a facilitator. So ESPN reporter Tim McMahon has been reporting. He said Cooper Flagg is going to have a real chance here, and especially early in the season when Kyrie's out, to play some point forward. He continued to say he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and J. Kidd really believes that he can facilitate. I think if you watch Duke basketball this year, you know Cooper Flagg can facilitate. I think a lot of the criticism of him early on was the fact that he seemed to be a little passive and did lean into John Shire's schemes a little bit, but can you blame him? That team was really stacked this year. They're going to have multiple lottery picks, including himself, obviously. So the fact that Jason Kidd, and obviously Jason Kidd being the Hall of Fame point guard that he is, if anyone can see somebody being a high level facilitator in this league, it is him. And I love this role for him. If he can get into that role, I think the sky's the limit for him, because I don't even think he necessarily has to be the strongest facilitator. I'm not saying he needs to be like LeBron James and average almost 10 assists, or Luka Doncic and almost average 10 assists, or anything like that. But if he can give us the Tatum type of realm, like 6 assists a game, I think that's really impactful, especially for year one, and that's not even something I'm really expecting out of Cooper Flagg in year one. If he can give the Mavericks 18, 9, and 4, that's a respectable year one for him, I think, especially having AD on the court, going to take a lot of that opportunity for stats and usage rate and all that stuff. So the numbers might not look as sexy early on with Cooper Flagg, but I do think the impact will be there early on with Cooper Flagg, and I think that's the most valuable part about getting this number one pick at this spot, is that this number one pick this year in Cooper Flagg, he is the most NBA ready guy to me, and I think Dylan Harper's probably the second most NBA ready guy. So to have a pretty much veteran built roster in the Dallas Mavericks, bringing in Cooper Flagg is, I'm going to say it over and over again. It's the perfect time. It's the perfect match. And the draft is, the countdown to the draft is here, and can't wait to officially say Cooper Flagg is a Dallas Maverick, and we could dive into it and get to the summer league and see him actually on the court and break down all that stuff. But you got to stay here with Mavs Latest, because I will break it all down. A fun one here. ESPN, they always do their way too early rankings for when the season ends, after the NBA Finals. And the Mavericks landed pretty much smack dab right in the middle of the league at number 14. And honestly, I don't think this is an unfair ranking at the moment. Obviously, the Mavericks have a lot of I wouldn't even say a lot of moves to make, but they have some moves to make that could obviously push that number up. And again, you always got to hedge the fact that Anthony Davis might get hurt, because it's always a possibility. You got to hedge the fact that Kyrie is going to come back late in this season. So I think 14 is a pretty fair ranking for the Mavericks. I don't really have anything really harsh to say about it. Again, in this piece, Tim McMahon writes the Mavericks' long-term concerns on the court and financially in the wake of Luka Doncic's deal were mitigated by the amazing lottery luck of landing Cooper Flagg with the number one pick, obviously imminently. He will arrive in the NBA with a chance to win immediately alongside Anthony Davis and eventually Kyrie Irving. This is the whole thing with this. Once Kyrie's healthy, the Mavericks might have eventually a legitimate big three in this small window that the Mavericks really have. This probably 2 to 4 year window where if Kyrie can obviously stay healthy, if Anthony Davis could stay healthy, they could compete. And it really all depends on how quickly Cooper Flagg can develop. So again, there's a lot of ifs with the Mavericks right now. There's a lot of potential that needs to come to fruition, but can't be mad right now, the day after the NBA Finals or whatever it is, a few days, whatever it is, and Mavericks are sitting at 14. I can't be too upset with that. So, again, Mavericks at 14, way too early power rankings. Hopefully they can make a couple moves that we will obviously bounce around as we get closer to free agency here on Mavs Latest. But I wanted to get to some interesting news. Obviously, yesterday we talked about how Sean Sweeney is now the new associate head coach for the San Antonio Spurs. But we find out that he also might have been an option for the New York Knicks to be their potential new head coach before that deal happened. This is according to Brad Townsend of the Dallas Morning News. In the recent days, they inquired about Sweeney. He definitely was on track to becoming a head coach and has interviewed for multiple jobs. Now he takes the job as the associate head coach under Mitch Johnson in San Antonio. But I think it's just funny to see, the Knicks, they couldn't get Jason Kidd, so they try to get their assistant and Sean Sweeney. He decides that San Antonio might be a better opportunity for where he's at right now in his coaching career. And, San Antonio has a lot going on for them. So, again, congratulations to Sean Sweeney on that opportunity. But it's just hilarious to see the Knicks trying to figure out something with their head coaching and, again, trying to get into the Mavs well with the head coaching pot. And they cannot get the job done there. Just another thing on the coaching staff front, NBA insider Mark Stein, he is reporting many around the NBA believe that Dallas will try to convince Frank Vogel, former head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, obviously won a championship with Jason Kidd, was under his staff as an assistant. And he is either going to compete to be Kidd's top assistant or the associate head coach. The natural response for Dallas, the league sources say, is to sound out Dallas's coaching consultant, Frank Vogel, about the willingness to move into Sweeney's chair. But Vogel has been very comfortable at this point, staying in a consulting role while awaiting his next head coaching opportunity. So, it would be nice to kind of see Frank Vogel back at the helm with this team because, obviously very familiar with Anthony Davis, was the head coach for the Lakers when they won the championship in the bubble. So a lot of familiarity there. Obviously, Jason Kidd was his top assistant in Los Angeles there as well. He's been with the franchise consulting, so it's not necessarily like he's not around, but, actually being on the sideline, coaching up the team on a daily basis, it's just a little different. And maybe this defense could use a little bit of Frank Vogel magic because there's one thing about Frank Vogel, and he knows how to coach defense. And if you could add a little bit of the Frank Vogel defense now, getting a Anthony Davis healthy offseason, adding in a Cooper Flagg who's proven in college and high school he's a versatile defender, and obviously as he grows and matures, he could obviously become a better and more versatile defender. We'll see how that goes. But I would like Frank Vogel to be back on the coaching sidelines and with the Mavericks in one of these either top assistant roles or the associate head coach role with Jason Kidd. Um, I say why not bring in smart guys, experienced guys. Obviously, doesn't necessarily look like he is interested. It's not like he's necessarily the one that's reaching out to get this opportunity, but if he's willing to kind of step away from consulting and kind of get back into coaching to heat up his head coaching market, because I think sometimes you kind of have to do that and become an assistant again, have a good season, and then the head coaching market heats back up for you. And we're in an era where I think a lot of these teams are going to start looking into these new, fresh, young coaches that never got an opportunity. So with Frank Vogel, you might have to put yourself back out there in order to get yourself back into the head coaching market. But I do want to just wrap things up here on Mavs Latest with some Mavs chatter. Obviously, with free agency looming, the draft looming, the number one question really outside of Cooper Flagg is where are the Mavericks going to replace Kyrie Irving while he recovers? Tim McMahon, NBA insider for ESPN, he gave 4 different options for the Mavericks that they might want to look into in terms of free agency. One person he mentioned is Dennis Schroeder. Again, Dennis Schroeder's fine. I actually got more impressed with him after his performance in the Olympics, personally. I think he's a dog. I think he comes to play. I think he actually has big shot capability, and I don't think it'll necessarily take too much money to get the job done. So he's somebody that I actually think shouldn't be your plan A, but if he's your plan B, plan C, I don't think that's terrible. Another guy Tim McMahon mentions, Malcolm Brogdon, another guy we've talked about kind of in length here on Mavs Latest, and I don't think he's necessarily the best fit for what the Mavericks are trying to get done right now. I get he might not be the most expensive option, and if he is healthy, he will be valuable to the team, but I just can't trust it right now. Another option he brings up, Tyus Jones. I think he's really nice off the bench, personally. I think once Kyrie is back, he would be nice to have on the roster. But he's shown that once he was given that starting opportunity with the Phoenix Suns, the impact wasn't necessarily showing as much as you might have expected from a guy that really did show flashes of being a high-level playmaker. But, again, if you have to go last minute, not spend a lot of money, I think Tyus Jones is probably a good option, but again, wouldn't be my plan A or plan B. Another guy that Tim McMahon mentions is 4th and last guy, who is probably the guy, will probably be out of all these guys, the one guy I probably would bring in is CP3, Chris Paul. Again, I think you can get him on a veterans minimum, $2-3 million a year, and I think right now, bringing in Cooper Flagg, you got to have as many people in the locker room, that veteran leadership, but also people that have just known what it's like to be a superstar. CP3 knows what it's like to be a superstar. Kyrie knows what it's like. AD knows what it's like. And for a guy like Cooper Flagg, who's getting all this attention, all this expectation, those are 3 guys that have all had expectation and fulfilled it, I think. So just having guys like that in the locker room for Cooper Flagg is so valuable, so important. So again, out of those 4 guys he mentions, Chris Paul to me is the guy I'd go after the most, and then I'd say Dennis Schroeder after that, followed by probably Tyus Jones and then Malcolm Brogdon. So again, this has been Mavs Latest. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Josyah Howard. Please subscribe down below. Leave any comments as well. And let's get it, y'all.